All right, guys, so just a general overview of this PowerPoint because this is how I'm basically going to teach the majority of the course. So I'm going to outline some stuff in the PowerPoint for you so that you don't have to actually physically take the notes. You can simply download this PowerPoint, print it out, study it on your computer, whatever you want to do, whatever's easiest for you. That's up to you, but I kind of want to just outline that this PowerPoint I'll be creating and kind of going over throughout these lectures so that you can better understand it and kind of see it physically with your eyes and kind of tangibly see what I'm actually talking about. So this is very valuable. Obviously, download it. It will be attached to this lecture. And obviously, I've only made about 3 slides right now, but I have all the information kind of outlined by myself. So I'm going to kind of add to these slides as we go on. And this entire PowerPoint, so the PowerPoint in its entirety will be attached to actually lecture 2. So this lecture. So feel free to go ahead and download this. Go ahead and grab it. There's a lot of value in here, a lot of valuable lessons to be learned. And this is kind of what I'll be using to kind of generally overview and outline how to, think like a billionaire and program your mind for success. So really, really excited about this. With that being said, we're just going to jump right in to the first lecture. So the first thing is to believe in yourself. And I know it's cliche and I know we hear about it, all the time, but before anyone else believes it, you've got to believe it. And I don't just mean, we all hear that a lot, you've heard it before, I'm sure, but you genuinely have to believe it. Now, if you don't believe it right now, that's totally fine. What I mean by that is that you're successful or that you're going to be successful. There's no gimmicks in this. It's constant, consistent, hard work. And through that constant, consistent hard work and through that process of getting better every single day and waking up with these different mindsets and these different techniques and these different approaches to life, you will slowly ingrain it in yourself. You'll walk a little bit differently. You'll carry yourself a little bit differently because you'll start to see it and you'll start to believe it yourself. An example that I use is reading. A lot of people talk about the benefits of reading. Not a lot of people read actually, or not a lot of people read enough. And so there's something. Obviously, you get the immense value if you pick a great book. There are little tidbits inside every book that I go through and highlight, which is another little side note that you might want to take into consideration. So if you're ever reading or you have a great book, what I like to do is I highlight certain things, and that's something I'll be going over in a little bit. And that way you can just kind of go back and read your highlights and kind of retrain your mind in those thought processes, because it's a study that has been done recently is that you only really retain about 7 to 12% of what you actually read. So you might want to read things about 10 times potentially so that you really truly understand it. So a little trick that I use, like I said before, is I go through and I highlight certain passages or certain important points, and then I just go back and I simply read through the highlights, whenever I want to go back and read. So, but there's something tangible. There's not just value, obviously, in reading the book. There's something tangible about finishing it, and I can't really explain it. But it's sort of a confidence. It's like, okay, I got through that. I just conquered that book. So now, even if you don't physically, obviously, retain all that information in your brain, at least the first time, there's something it really instills a confidence in you that, obviously you can take on more books or you can take on more challenges. It's the same thing with working out that I always liken, because I'm also a personal trainer. I'm a nutrition enthusiast and I studied nutrition when I went to college. And I literally live, breathe, and sleep, eat and sleep nutrition. So there's something to be said about sticking to a diet. There's something to be said about finishing a workout. If you have say you have 12 sets of different workouts that you have planned, and you stop on that 11th set, finish that 12th set. It might not be necessarily 100,000% worth it to actually finish that set physically for your muscles, and obviously it is, but I'm just giving an example. But when you actually physically finish that set, there's something to be said about finishing what you start and finishing those reps and finishing and sticking to that diet. So the more you do it, the more you'll ingrain that muscle and train that muscle in your brain, actually. And it's just like any other muscle. So you stick to it, you don't quit, and there's something to be said about finishing a book, continuously learning. So what I'm trying to say, and how this all ties into believing in yourself, is the more you do these things, the more you kind of conquer small things and build up that momentum, the more you'll start to truly believe it. So it's okay if you don't now. You will in the future. I promise you that. I wasn't the most confident person when I first started out. I was introverted in a lot of ways. And, now I'm talking to different people online. I'm doing a bunch of different things, and I'm confident in who I am as a person and what I bring to the table. So I didn't start like that. I promise you that. But if you stick to these things and you continuously work on them, it will pay dividends for you in the future. I promise you. So the next thing I want to talk about is obviously this is also cliche, and there'll be a lot of cliches in this because, people like to poke fun at certain sayings like this, but there's truth behind them. They're all based in truth. So be so great they can't ignore you actually is inspired by a book I read called Be So Great That They Can't Ignore You. And what I mean by that is pick something. I have a bunch of different courses, obviously, on passive income. I've been getting into a bunch of different courses. Recently, in the past month, I've been creating courses on motivation and training your mindset because I think that's extremely valuable. But really what I'm trying to say is pick, something that intrigues you, something that you love, and become a master at it. Don't major in minor things all over the place. Simply pick something that you genuinely love and become so great that people can't ignore you. Don't talk about it, show it through action. And finally, I want to talk about, finding a mentor. So I haven't anointed myself this by any means. I have a small YouTube channel. I have a small followings on Instagram here and there. I do a lot of things that I'm successful with online through e-commerce and digital marketing. And clearly I have about, roughly right now about a student base of 60,000 on Udemy. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But what I'm trying to say is some people, appoint certain people gurus, and that gurus is in quotes as well. I'm in no way, shape, or form a guru. So I'm just down-to-earth person like you that makes mistakes, that learns from their mistakes, and grows and becomes better. And obviously I've seen success, but that success has been a long road, and it's still a journey from here on out. I can become way, way, way more successful. I want to 10x that to massive amounts. But that was found through failure and failure and failure. So you can cut your learning curve exponentially if you find a mentor. So maybe, if you obviously want to reach out and help and ask me questions, I'm always willing to help my students. Simply email me at Brian, that's Brian with a Y, at bgmediainnovation.com. You can literally ask me anything, whether it's about a specific course that I offer on passive income or making money online, or it's about any of the motivation courses. Literally anything that you need to know, shoot me an email, ask me, or feel free to message me on Udemy's platform, although I don't check Udemy's messages all that frequently, so I'm a little bit more responsive to email. So find a mentor. It doesn't have to be me. Say you're into drop shipping, which is a business model that I talk about a lot, or say you're into Amazon FBA, or, private labeling, or, any of the business models that I talk about, blogging, content creation. Find somebody in that field who's been there, who's done it, who is successful, and learn from them. And a mentor doesn't, despite what a lot of people think, a mentor doesn't necessarily have to be, somebody you physically know in person. You can have a mentor that has a YouTube channel that teaches that stuff. You can have a mentor that lives across the globe that you exchange emails with. A mentor doesn't have to be somebody that you know personally. It can just be somebody that you learn from. So find a mentor, cut your learning curve exponentially, and really develop that hunger for getting better in that field.